Welcome back to Beyond the Book with Joanne Dickinson. I'm thrilled to welcome mystery author Dennis Schock, the creative mind behind the Pacific Northwest Cozy Culinary series and the Taco Truck series, just to mention a few. Dennis begins a wonderful trip to cozy mystery world, blending small town charm, suspense, and mouth-watering recipes inspired by his restaurant background. Welcome, Dennis.
Hi, it's great to be here with you.
Let's start by you sharing a little bit about your journey and writing. I think subjects of your books are so interesting. I can't wait to learn more. So share how you started writing.
Well, I actually got started. I have always read a lot of mystery books, mystery thrillers, crime action. Being fully transparent, I watch a lot. Used to watch a lot of it on television too, but I don't watch as much TV as I used to. So I was reading actually an author named L.T. Ryan. He has some great series. I'd finished his Rachel Hatch series and was very inspired by the writing and the story and was having a little trouble finding something like that. And I thought, I wonder if I could write something like that. Not that my books are just like his, but I started out doing mystery thrillers and wrote I've spent 6 or 8 months writing my first book. I spent a lot of time going back and rewriting chapters. I'm a pantser, so I just wrote it a little bit at a time when I had time. I get up early in the morning, so I'd write before my wife got out of bed in the morning when I didn't have anything else going on. And just over the course of a number of months, I didn't even tell my wife I was writing it at the time, but finally did let her know and had her read the book and kind of took off from there. I got really interested in just the whole writing and publishing and just the whole process really intrigued me. And it wasn't even just the writing for me, but the whole thing was very intriguing. And this kind of took off in 2021. I'd done a little writing in college, but nothing in between there. So that's kind of how it started.
Interesting. And I find it very almost compulsive. When I'm in the middle of writing, I wrote my first chapter book last year, and you don't want to stop because you get on a path that you just keep going and ideas pop into your head, and that just keeps you propelling forward.
Yeah, I start out with an idea for my next book and I take a lot of notes. I have a note thread on my phone. I have notes on a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet on my computer. And I start out just as things pop into my head, I make jot down notes. And then I have some writer friends who say, oh, I sit down and write 2,000 words every day at least. I make myself sit down and I don't do that. I might not write for 2 weeks, but then I might write several times a day for 2 or 3 weeks straight because just like I think it's kind of like when people binge watch like a Netflix series. I kind of binge write and I'm a pantser. A lot of times, I mean, I write murder mysteries and I don't even know who did it until I'm halfway through the book most of the time. So I'm doing ooh, what happens next? Just like a reader would. That I want to keep writing because I want to know what happens next and I don't yet.
Yes, I'm there right now with a second book that I'm working on, and it's like, I don't know where to go next. And you have all these ideas. I feel like you really have to categorize it. I love the idea that you write a lot of notes. I do too. I take notes, I write ideas down. I have a notebook that I take everywhere with me, and an idea might be sparked out shopping, but mystery novels, I think that's a whole nother genre that I think that could be really fun to write. It actually sparked my interest.
Well, one of the great things about mystery writing is all those ideas that come in your head. You can kind of go in all those directions because, when there's a mystery, there's always some clues that take you to the wrong place too.
Exactly. Your author journey really took off in 2021 when you wrote your first thriller, The Link. What was that moment like when your wife stayed up all night reading it? And did that encouragement your confidence in as writing? How did your wife play into it? And did she say, "Oh my gosh, this is really good"?
I went to bed while she was reading the book. Like I said, I didn't even tell her I was writing the book until a few weeks before I thought I was finished writing the story. And I printed it out and gave it to her one evening, and I went to bed at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, like I always do. And she was up reading. And when I got up in the morning, she stayed up and read that she was up till 2:30 in the morning, reading the book. It's like you were there because I could see the surprise and shock on her face when she told me how much she liked the book. And she's an avid reader. I knew she's also very honest. We talked about my cooking a little bit and my restaurant experience. She has no problem telling me when she doesn't like my food. But when she told me that she really thought the book was great and that one of the first things she said to me was, "You should try to get this published." And I knew she wouldn't do that if she thought it would be embarrassing for me, which is the first thing I think when you're a new author, you don't want to put yourself out there for fear of embarrassment. So she did give me that confidence. And I wasn't afraid then to go the next step, which for me was, how do you publish a book and what's traditional publishing look like and what is indie publishing? And there's some stuff in the middle. And I spent months then researching that. And that was fun too. Every author should spend a bunch of time doing that, looking at the differences, because what's right for me or what's right for you might not be right for another author.
That's right. You drove straight into self publishing, learned KDP, and joined author groups like 20 books to 50,000. What was the steepest learning curve in becoming an indie author? And what advice would you give someone trying to navigate that world? There's so much, as you know, to dive into that. KDP alone is just a whole animal in itself that you have to learn. Share some of that with us.
For me, the KDP piece was much easier than I expected it to be.
Mm.
And I always offer to help other authors with that piece, with the formatting and how you manage it on Amazon's platform on KDP. The tough things for me were the editing, because that was another place where I didn't want to be embarrassed. That's really my deal with my current editor. I started out, I used some editors on Fiverr, didn't always go so well. Really, really tough to find somebody good on there, but I found somebody through actually my daughter and her husband, somebody they knew from college, and she does my editing now. And that my deal with her when I first started working with her was, I don't want to be embarrassed when somebody reads it to go, "Oh man, this guy doesn't know how to and where to put a comma," or yada yada, those kind of grammatical goofy errors you might make and miss them, even though you read your book 18 times. And so I think the editing piece is hard, finding that editor. I think book covers are super important, but I don't find it hard because I get excited about book covers. I started out using Get Covers for my book covers. I now have a local designer who lives in the town where my current book is set.
Fantastic.
She uh, she has been doing my last few covers, but I used to use Get Covers, and either way, I get really excited about that process. I'd love to see the cover. I love to get the paperback. Even I just published my 16th book, and that's still a thrill to me to get that book in my hands. The hardest thing is the marketing. And my tip for other authors is just some of the things you mentioned, like talking to other authors and getting on some of those Facebook groups, like 20 books to 50,000, because they're great resources. And there's people on there who will share the things they went through and the things that worked for them. And I don't know if you've been on that website, but you can just search it for anything about being an author. And there are people who have just honestly said, "This is how it worked for me. I tried this promotion and this is how it worked. Or they'll tell you, I tried this promotion. It didn't work for me. I didn't even break even. I just spent money on it." So I think other authors, no matter how you can hear from them, is the biggest piece. If you want to, you know, even if it's just a hobby, but especially if you like turn it into a business.
I agree 100%. Backing up to the editing, had a nightmare trying to find an editor that could edit my chapter book. And it is hard to find. You are so lucky to have a family member because first you have to have trust. You have to have somebody that is good at what they do and they edited a lot of books. Editing, I found the hardest with a chapter book. And then also marketing is the number one. This is now, I'm almost at 50 interviews, Dennis, and that is number one that everybody talks about is marketing. Oh, I don't know about 20 books to 50,000, but I am definitely going to look that up because I hadn't heard that one. I have to say, there's a lot of groups out there, but they're not necessarily good groups, or they don't have good, honest, professional people that really want to help you, whether they are there to gather information for themselves or they don't like to see other people advancing or whatever it is. But there's some groups that I've stayed away from as my author career is primarily children's books. And now I'm going into chapter books. I'm intrigued in your lane simply because when I'm out at farmers markets, I have people coming up to me and saying, "Would you ever write a chapter book?" That's what started the age group just out of picture books going into chapter books. Now I'm seeing junior high saying, "Are you going to write a novel? Are you going to write mystery? What else are you going to write?" I feel like the need is out there, but you just have to do a lot of research. And I think that's the best piece of advice that you've given is research, research, research until you find that good group that you can belong and get a lot of information from.
Well said. And
Thank you.
will tell you that group in particular, that kind of their whole culture is that there are millions of readers out there. And so we can all sell books. Let's help each other. And that's really how it's built. Like you don't even have to ask direct questions. You can go, it's that site, I don't know how many years it's been open, but it has beginning authors and it has people who've been making their living at being an author and are more than six-figure authors on there also giving advice. So kind of all kinds of things you can look up, just about anything you can think of. You can search their site and find some anecdotal story about it. Absolutely.
I love that. So you mentioned realizing the mystery thriller genre was saturated, which led you to try a cozier subgenre, which clicked for you about cozy mysteries. And how did you know this was your lane as a writer?
I'll tell you, because the marketing piece is so hard, I reached out to an author actually, HP Bayne. She writes paranormal mysteries. I can't even tell you how I ever discovered her, but I read some of her books and then I joined her email group and I emailed her and I asked her some questions. I said, I'm a new author. I've written a couple of books. I'd only written a couple at that time. And I don't know how to sell my books. And, I don't know what all I asked her, but she's the one that pointed me at the Facebook group of 50 books to 20. She also told me that she used K-lytics. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a company. It's you have to pay for it, but it's not expensive. But what they do is they do a bunch of research and share data about what is on Amazon, what genres are selling, how many authors are there in that genre, which were two of the big things. They have a lot of data, but the big thing for me was I looked at the mystery thriller genre number of readers, which it's mystery thriller. Mysteries in general are the second after romance, the second highest selling books on Amazon, but they also have like the most writers. So what I wanted to do was find a little bit of a niche that had a lot of readers, but maybe proportionately not as many writers, so that the odds would be in my favor. So, one of the genres that stuck out to me on there at the time, this was a couple of years ago, was the cozy mystery genre and specifically the subgenre of culinary. And with over 20 years in the food business, and still cook all the time, I love to cook, thought, I mean, what a perfect pairing for me. I love mysteries and I love cooking. I'm going to try the cozy mystery, the culinary. And I just loved it from the first book. And each book I write, it's just more fun. So I like it. It's easy for me to talk about. And I've been going to festivals and doing signings at bookstores, stuff like that. And it's just it really clicked for me. The other thing for me that's different about the cozy mystery genre, there are some really long cozies out there, but there are also a lot of people who write 150, 200 page cozy mystery books. You don't see that much in the mystery thriller. And I struggled to write 70, 80,000 words. I'm not a give you a bunch of detail kind of person. That's not the way I read, and it's not the way I write. For a setting, I like to give you some things to ground you in the scene and let you imagine the rest of it. I won't give you 4 pages of this is what the room looked like.
Oh,
So
I like that.
I like that it's acceptable to have a book that's a couple hundred pages long and not go into all that detail and work more on the mystery.
That's an interesting tip. I love that because I worked with an editor that said, "Give me more detail." And I'm kind of the same personality as you are, Dennis, is I will give some information, but I don't think giving all of it away is really necessary to keep a reader engulfed in that story and keep moving forward.
It is a problem. My wife still is my first beta reader when I write every book, and she's a detail person. She likes that picture drawn for her. So I'm not specifically her style of writer, but for people who don't want all that detail in their book, those are the people who continue to read my series.
I started reading samples of your book on Amazon because I like to do research about the writer, and you had me hooked on that first page, page and a half. And so I think it's right up my alley. I have to read some more of your books.
Thank you. One of the things that I do is at the end of my books, starting with the taco series, at the very last of the book, I give you 2 recipes. And I was in food business for a long time. I managed and ran restaurants and food service in different ways, catering. I only put my best recipes in the books. And then I give you the first chapter of the next book. And so that first chapter being that hook is important for me because I want them to read it and then go, oh, I got to get the next book.
That is a great marketing tip. You've now written multiple books in both the Pacific Northwest Cozy Culinary series and Taco Truck Mysteries. Do you have a favorite series or character that readers seem to connect with the most?
And another thing that's, I think, a good tip about having that first chapter of your next book go in your last book, it also keeps you from taking a long break before you start your next book.
Good point.
Before I can publish my next book, I have to write that first chapter of the next one.
Mhm.
So I don't want that to hold back the book. And I send it all to my editor at once. So basically, when I finish a book and I think it's ready to go to my editor, I have to have that first chapter ready too of the next book, which gets me started on that next book and gets me to keep writing. And I think that's one of the reasons why every 2 to 3 months I've put out a taco cozy. The Pacific Northwest cozies and the tacos. I don't know that one of them is my favorite more than the other. Right now, I'm really into one of the characters in the taco book because I'm writing it. And her name is Sid. And I think she resonates really well with from talking to people at the bookstore that I do regular signings at every time I publish a book. They really like Sid. And interestingly, my favorite characters in both books didn't start out to be the main character. They were kind of the sidekick who became the duo main character and became my favorite character in the book. In the first one, the Pacific Northwest series starts out about a lady who moves to the Pacific Northwest to open a restaurant while her daughter follows her there and becomes a reporter for the Seattle newspaper. She became kind of my best character, I think, in that series. And then likewise in the taco books, the lady who owns the taco truck and all the background and stuff is about, she gets a new best friend in the third book, and that lady kind of takes off to really be her partner and more into the mystery person of the books.
There's a lot of good tips, a lot of good information of how you write, when you write, what you're writing about. I didn't even know that cozy murder mysteries was a thing. I love the information that that is a number two most popular type of genre. Um, which one is more fun to write, Dennis? Are you writing two books at the same time?
Well, in a series, I'm in the process of more than one book because right now I just published book 5 and my editor has book 6 and I'm writing book 7. So
Oh my gosh.
when my editor sends book 6 back to me, I have to go back and work on that one and then go back to book 7. But I'm not like writing a book in another genre or anything like that. I know people who do that. That would be confusing for me. I will say there's kind of another step in there. I do audios. So I do that through ACX, and my narrator is, I mean, he gets the book after it's published. So he's working on book 5, which I just published. So at some point I'll be going back and listening to book 5 again while I'm waiting for the editor to give me book 6 while I'm writing book 7. So in there's kind of always 3 books going on.
Dennis, do you still work full
Yeah.
time? That's a lot. I thought I was busy because I work full time as well.
What I tell people most often when they say, "How do you find time to write books?" I tell them, "Stop watching television. You won't believe how much free time you have if you turn off the TV."
And there's not much on it anyway. So, not compared to really getting into writing. And that's almost like your own TV program, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm always in the middle of reading a book too, so I'm always reading. I like to read other people. I learn from that.
Absolutely. That's what they say. Read. If you want to learn how to write, read. You said you like to use real towns and landmarks. What do readers enjoy most about recognizing real places in your stories? And how does that local connection help build your fan base? I would think that would say, that's my town. I know that place.
Well, I'll tell you, all of the places I write about are places I've lived because like the settings to be real. If somebody is reading my book and I talk about a town, I want them to be able to go look the town up on Google Maps and it's there. There's really a place, and this is where it is in the country, and this is how big it is, and so on and so forth. Now, is everything real? No, the story is fictional. The characters, I'm going to say 90% of the time are fictional. And, I try to use real street names. I use some of the real local businesses. If there's restaurants I like to eat at, I talk about them. The characters go there. And your question about kind of the local draw really came into play in my taco truck series. I'm gonna pull one of the books out. This one is called The Brickyard. So this is the third book in the series. It started out in my hometown of Bloomville. That's in the background. My sister actually took that background picture in on the street in Bloomville, Ohio. And it's a little tiny town, a one stoplight town. And there's no taco truck there that I know of that's ever been in Bloomville. And the story is about the lady has the taco truck next to a bookstore that is also a bar, which I've had people in my hometown tell me they wish there was such a thing. There is a library there, which I talk about in the book. So some of the things are real and the streets are real and the neighboring towns that they go to are real. But I was writing my second book in that series, which goes to Dublin, Ohio, another place that I lived. And while I was at my signing talking to the bookstore owners, I'm like, man, how fun would it be to come to Thompson with the taco truck. The bookstore that I was in at the time is in Thompson. It's a little bookstore called Mary Beth's Books, and they've been super about selling my books and having me in for signings and so on. And then their old town area is the cutest little downtown area. It has a depot and some great restaurants and an old theater, and coffee places and antique stores. And so I'm like, I'm going to bring the taco truck to Thompson And they have a football stadium there that is known around the area because there was a school that burnt down years ago and they took all the bricks and they built this wall around this stadium. It was originally a minor league baseball stadium, but it's where they play high school football now. So that was huge for me for the local area to go in the bookstore. Lots of people love to get that book and read about, even though it's a murder mystery, somebody died, a fictional person died, but it's all about places in the town, streets in the town, the coffee shop in the town, the restaurant, the bookstore. I will tell you in the rest of the books, I enjoyed that so much writing about that town that in book 3 through 7, the main characters still live in Thomson, Georgia, and they go to book club one Thursday a month and they eat at the same restaurant and they go to the same coffee places. It has that hometown feel about it.
I love that you have so much experience in those small towns. I have lived one time in a small town. We have a mountain resort area in California, and it's a beautiful town. Not a lot to, I suppose I could find something to write about, but all of those quaint little towns in the Midwest and back east, there's so much history. I love visiting small little towns that I feel like that's an inspiration in itself with writing.
Oh yeah, it started out, it's kind of a funny thing. One of the bookstore owner's husbands is actually a character in my books because I feel like I always learn things about the town from him. So in my books, he's kind of the guy that knows everything about what's going on in town and
Great
so on. But
character.
he told me some great things about the town that I wouldn't have even researched. A blind Willie McTell is from there and was born there. He's a very famous blues singer. And Ray Guy, if you know anything about football, famous punter from the NFL, used to play for the Raiders. He went to high school at the Brickyard
Oh my gosh.
at the school there. And they have some other football players who went pro out of that little high school. So just some neat things like that about the town and about the area.
I love all that detail that can be used in writing a story. That's great material. Your background in food service clearly shines through your books, even down to the recipe in the back. What inspired you to weave cooking and storytelling together? And do you test all of those recipes yourself? Well, I think you've answered some of that because you do a lot of cooking. And I saw that you had a cookbook also on your website. So share a little bit about that.
The cookbook came about, I have since I was writing my second book ever. One of the tips that I found, I think on from somebody on 20 Books to 50 was that to try to get people to sign up for your newsletter so that you can keep letting people know when you have a new book out to give them something, give them a short story, give them a novella. So I wrote a novella to give away. I have actually 3 different short stories or novellas that I've given away. I still give one of those away on my website too, but I had this idea to take all the recipes from all the books and put them in one book so people didn't have to go back to the book and give that away on my website
That's
if
brilliant.
people will join my newsletter. So that's where that came from. I I do test all of the recipes. My wife has to eat the same thing a couple times a week sometimes, or maybe a month, because generally when I cook, I don't measure anything. My dish isn't exactly the same every time. So I have to make it again and again and again. First time I'm estimating how much I put in, and then I go, well, that was wrong. It wasn't really a half a cup of cream. I don't put that much cream in there. It needed more Parmesan. So I go back and make it again with that adjustment and again before I put the recipe in the book.
I love the recipe idea, recipe book idea. That's a great marketing tool that you took all those recipes, put it in a book. You hit your first 1,000 month after a BookBub feature. Every indie author wants to know how. What marketing strategies have worked best for you? I use Fussy Librarian, which is okay with children's books. Not, I don't think it's been as successful with my chapter books. So Interested to hear more about BookBub, or do you think that Fussy Librarian and BookBub are equivalent?
I have used Fussy Librarian and Freebooksy are my outside of the first BookBub that I got because you have to apply for BookBub and they only do so many books. So I've been turned down lots of months for BookBubs. But you can go run a promo on Fussy Librarian or Freebooksy anytime you want. And I've tried a bunch of different things. I do some other ones that are free or $15, $20 to try to supplement doing the kind of things that you talked about. Fussy Librarian and Free Booksy have always been my biggest go-tos other than BookBub because I find it really hard. I have two freestanding books as well. They're not in the cozy genre. They're just real quick. Cozy is like a clean, there's no cussing, there's no blood. We don't shoot people, go shooting up a town, anything like that. These are not cozy, but they're standalones. And I find standalones really difficult, more difficult to sell. And the reason being, my best marketing for my two cozy series is I give the first book away, not all the time, but I
Mhm.
run feature where I gave the first taco book away, and the read through on the rest of the series has been incredible. Still going on.
Mhm.
I ran that the 1st of August. Still getting a little bit of a tail off of that. So just exponentially inflated the number of readers that I have. And I've found that just looking at the Kindle Unlimited reading and trying to figure out how many people read it, because even when you give it away, a lot of people read it on Kindle Unlimited. They do Kindle Unlimited button if they have that. So the number of people who read it there and then read the amount of reads I had on the second book, about 65% would go on and read the next book. And then once they read the second book, more than 85% of them go on and just read the next one and then the next one. So I find that to be the best marketing. Writing standalone books, I just think are so much tougher to market because you don't have the opportunity to do that. You can write one book, excuse me, you can write one book and hope they like it so much they go see what else you wrote, but that's not the same as there's another book in the series.
Yes, 100%. I have said that for a long time. New authors with 1, 2, sometimes 3, my advice is write as many as you can, get as many out there because the more that you have, it leads into another one. I wrote 3 standalone and then I started building my series. Once I built those series, then that creates more interest. That creates, oh, I got to find out what this book is and the next book. And I feel like the genre that you're in, it leads people to the next one and the next one. It's like you're feeding their interest and what else has he got? What's going to happen next? And that's that whole building of putting that first chapter in the end of those books. That's great marketing tip. You've mentioned being inspired by authors like Melissa Burch and H.P. Bayne and how generous the author community is. How has collaboration or networking shaped your journey? And what's one piece of advice you'd pass along to new indie authors trying to build connections? I feel like, Dennis, you've given us a lot of information, but is there anything else that you feel like you really got from people in different groups that helped propel you?
I think whenever you can get some information from another author, you're going to find out something new, something you didn't know. Maybe just something you never thought of. Maybe somebody who's listening to this today never thought about putting the first chapter of their next book at the end of their book, and they'll try that and hopefully it'll work out for them. H.P. Bayne, I can't tell you how I first found out about her books, but I think I already said I emailed her and asked her some questions, and she was very kind to answer my questions, give me some tips to help me with my writing career. She had recently at that time just become what, she said, I just became a full-time author. I quit my day job. this is what I do to make a living now. And I don't do that. As I said, I'm a full-time, but through talking with these other authors and trying some of the things that worked for them, each year I I have grown as an author, not only as a writer, but as a publisher, as a marketer. And I get tips on what things I can do to keep building that business behind it. I'm a long way from being a professional author. I track everything on spreadsheets because that's also my day job. But I track all my book stuff, and I know that going to even venues like festivals, local festivals, and selling books and talking to people helps to expand your readers. Going to book signings, some people don't like to do that, but if you can get yourself to do that, it's actually a lot of fun to
Mhm.
talk to people about your books, especially once they've already read a few of them and they come back to talk to you. And it expands your readers. Things like giving your books away can vastly expand your readership, and especially if you write a series.
Yes.
So HP Bayne was intricate in that for me and helping me find other authors like on Facebook groups that help. But also Melissa Burch, like you mentioned, I met her through the bookstore, and turns out she lives a couple blocks from me. We're kind of neighbors. And so we've sold books together at festivals, and I learned from her. I hope she learned some things from me. I offer to help her, and her daughter actually writes as well, to
Mm,
help them with their with formatting and some things like that. And they are big. You might know a lot more about the festival kind of thing than I do, and going out live and selling books, because that seems to be really big for the children's book genre.
it is.
Um, but I have fun with it too, especially locally with the books that are set in the local area.
Do you format your own books or do you have somebody that does it for you, Dennis?
I format them and I use Atticus. I will tell you, I used to format that I use for ebooks, I use the program that they give you on KDP. I think it's really easy to use. If you're only putting your books on Amazon, the quickest, easiest way to do it. It lets you put links in the back to your website, to your free newsletter, to your other books on Amazon, which is great. But for my hardbacks and my paperbacks, I use Atticus. My first few books, I formatted them in Word and then uploaded them in PDF form so that I could download them. I found that to be super painful and time consuming.
Yeah,
Atticus saves me tons of time.
that is great. You had mentioned your audiobooks, ACX.
Yeah, that's really Amazon's kind of their facilitator to get your books on Audible. So there's different ways you can go about doing your contracts on there. Like you can pay narrators. There's a whole bunch of narrators on there. You can have them read parts of your book. You get to decide on narrators. I had a guy, I had one of my books was not narrated by Jeff Moon. This one, Powerless. But the rest of my books are all done by the same guy because I really enjoy working with him. I think he does a great job. Not a lot of men do cozy mysteries, but I think he does a nice job with them because there's mostly women characters in them. But I found him on ACX through their shared royalties program. And you can pay narrators outright so that you own all the rights. You can do kind of a shared thing where you pay them something and share royalties. My thing was I just wanted to try Audible without having to invest a bunch of money in it because getting your books narrated is expensive. So the way the shared royalty program works is when we sell books, instead of me getting 40% from Audible, I get 20%. The narrator who publishes the audiobook, he gets 20%. So we share in whatever we make on there, but it doesn't cost me anything up front. I know a lot of authors, they like to have their books for sale on their own websites, and some people don't even use Amazon at all. I've found that Amazon does some things to help me. Real quick, last year, while I was doing some promotions on one of my books, they offered to, I had nominated one of my first in series to their free book promotion. So last year, at the end of the year, they gave my book, my first book in my series, away and promoted the giveaway for 90 days. So for the last 3 months of the year last year, they were giving the first book in my series away, and I was getting all the read through from those books. And they did all of that. It didn't cost me a thing except giving away my electronic book, which really doesn't cost anything. Recently, through Audible, and they don't give you a choice. It's not like the thing I just described. For Audible, they just sent me an email and said, "Hey, just so you know, for the next 10 days, we're doing a buy one, get one free on the first two books in your series." So when somebody buys the first book in the taco truck series, they're going to get the second one for free. And my sales, we're still in the middle of this thing. I've already done about times the amount of sales I usually do on Audible. I mean, it's been crazy. So Amazon does do some things to help you. You have to push your sales first to show them people will read my books,
Yes.
but then they will help.
The first couple years I did a lot of Amazon advertising. And I know a lot of people, they get discouraged. It's expensive. You feel like you're not making any money. But the first of the year, I decided I'm not going to do any more paid advertising with Amazon. They're still pushing out my books because I did that initial push and the expense of it. Amazon, I got an email when I published Secrets of Hawthorne Manor, and they wanted to do an audio book, and they did it for free. They said, "Hey, we want to put your book on audio." And I said, "Okay, great." I'm not tracking it as well as I probably should just because my time is sometimes limited. But I really want to look into that because I think with someone like you, you've got multiple books in series. I'm sure it's already been out for a while, but a lot of people like to listen to books while they're on the freeway, while they're traveling. So I think it's a huge market that if you're not in, you need to be in it.
Agreed. Amazon emailed me the same, about a couple of my books to be on Audible, but really I'm planning to finish with the Jeff Moon, who's my narrator, to finish the series, because to do an omnibus on Audible, or your whole series together on Audible, you have to have the same narrator for the whole thing. So, and my best before they started doing the buy one get one free thing this past couple of days, my best seller on Audible is my series, the Pacific Northwest series, because I think really for the listener, they get a better deal on the 6 book series than they do if they get them one at a time. So my whole series together has the best sales. So I'm kind of anxious to finish up. I have 8 books planned for the taco truck mysteries. And once that's finished, I'm going to bundle them all together for Audible as well.
My gosh, so much information today, Dennis. I want to hop into reading those books. It's been such a great conversation, and I'm sure we've given listeners out there information. I appreciate you being so generous with your success. Before we go, tell the listeners where they can find you. Share your website. Are you on social media?
I I am on Facebook. I don't do a ton on Facebook, but you can follow me on Facebook. It's Cozy Culinary Mysteries Dennis Shock, and my website, dshock.net. You can find all of my books on there. You can get a free recipe book. If you click any of the pictures of the books or the tabs under them, that will take you directly to my books on Amazon, because that's the only place I sell them other than at the local bookstores around here.
That's great. I have to ask you, is Dennis Shock your real name or is that a pen name?
No, that is my real name.
I thought it was a pen name. When I first saw your name, I was shocked. That's got to be, oh my gosh, this is a shocking story. How perfect is that?
I actually, when I go to festivals, I get that question, or I get people that just come up and go, "That is a great name. Shot, that's just a cool name." I'm like, "It's my real name." I have 2 daughters, and I used to always tell them, "If you get married, don't change your name because you're not getting a cooler last name." One of them did anyway.
Oh, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
If you've enjoyed this episode, follow Beyond the Book with Joanne Dickinson on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube for more conversations with authors, illustrators, and creators. That's all for now. We'll see you next time.